Hi, my name is Angeth Malual. I'm 19 years old and I'm South Sudanese Australian. So I would like to speak about my journey, my emotional journey between my first arrival in Australia and my perception of the country now that I'm much older and much mature. So when I first arrived here, I felt all types of emotions when I first came here. I felt anxious, scared, confused. Like it was just a mix of all emotions, and I didn't really know how to feel because when I lived in Kenya, I lived in a refugee camp. So coming to a city like Melbourne, a really big city, because I arrived at night time, so the lights were quite bright, and to be honest, I didn't really have an in-depth feeling about when about my feelings about the place because I was really young. But my first oh sorry, my first reaction was, well, there's a lot of white people, and it was quite shocking to me because I've never seen them before, and when I first came here, obviously I didn't know any English, and so mum decided to enroll me and my brother into language school before we started actual school, so we wouldn't feel kind of out of place. So when I first came into language school, I just remember this white lady coming up to me and speaking to me in English for like 5 minutes straight, and I was just staring at her. I had no idea what was coming out of her mouth. I didn't know why she was talking to me. I didn't know who she was. I was just kind of waiting for her to finish so I could walk off. And my experience at language school was quite good because I kind of fit in that place. I never felt like an outcast, out of place or anything like that because, all the kids that were there for the same purpose as I was, and we were all going through very similar experiences, and we we're kind of learning to adapt to Australian society altogether. But after, surprisingly, I picked up English pretty quickly, so I was only there for a couple of months. And then after that, I started actual school, and that was a quite, to kind of exaggerate it a bit, it was traumatic. So it was hard making friends because I was obviously completely different to them, and with the other kids, they kind of grew up with this environment and this type of society, and they were able to be taught certain things when they're younger, but everything was kind of new to me, and I was still in the transition stage. So I didn't have any friends at all. My friend was basically my teacher, and warming up to kids I was a really shy kid, so I didn't really make any friends. It was just hard. So after that, we decided to move to the countryside in Traralgon, and I still had difficulties making friends because obviously I was still shy since I didn't have much experiences from my old school. And during that time, I was kind of conflicted because at this point I've learned English. I think I've kind of adapted pretty well into the Australian culture, and I didn't really have worries in that department. But the only problem I had was I was quite conflicted between the two worlds, between South Sudan and my culture and tradition and the things that I know at home and speaking our native language at home except for English, and then coming to school and having to speak English and having to be trained in English, and then going to supermarkets and having to shop in English, and everything, majority of my life was in English, so it was kind of hard to not fall into that type of world for me. I was more caught up in that type of environment rather than my culture and tradition, and it kind of caused some problems in the family because uncles and parents and stuff like that, they kept reminding me, oh, I think you're losing your culture, or you do speak English, and it's like it's kind of hard not to when that's kind of all I know really, because I do everything in English. I watch TV in English, I speak English, I write English. English is kind of everywhere, so it's kind of hard not to get sucked into that part of my life. So during that time I was in a very difficult place because I never felt like I always felt like I had to choose between the two. I never felt like I could just be 50-50 between the both. But soon enough, when I did get older and I started learning more and teaching myself personally, because when I started learning things through school, I kind of thought, why should my knowledge be limited to the things I learned in the education system? So I kind of took the initiative of learning like political stuff on my own, because if I'm going to be in this country for a very long time, might as well know who's running it. So I started getting into politics and stuff about Australian society to kind of see where I fit in, because when I was younger, I was like really young, like 6, so that was never really my first thought, like where do I fit in. It was kind of just like, there's a lot of white people. So when I got older, I had to start thinking about, because at this point I got my citizenship, so I'm a permanent resident in this country. So I started thinking about my place, my future, what I should do, and I started educating myself in the system that I'll be working in when I get older. And also I kind of thought, because being a black woman, being South Sudanese, and being a woman in society, it's already hard enough. So instead of working the system, I kind of thought, just challenge it, So the older I got, the more I started thinking about different fields of work I should go into, and I kind of started thinking fields where female presence isn't very dominant in it, or South Sudanese at all. So I thought, why not media? Because it's very influential and the government uses a way to control most of the population. And the population is controlled by mostly white men, and that kind of makes me uncomfortable being a black woman, kind of having them in control of everything. And with the things that have been happening in the media with the South Sudanese community and the overexposure of African gangs and the overrepresentation of our community in a negative light kind of motivated me further to pursue the career further. So I've decided to work in media, and I think it's great to have someone who I like to think that Australia lacks diversity in that field. So having a woman and a black woman being in that type of field kind of, in a way, brings people a peace of mind, knowing that they have someone that understands them to an extent and someone that they're able to look to. Like, I kind of want to be a representation for them, especially South Sudanese girls, because, when we look into the media, you don't see a lot of us. So yeah, that's kind of like the journey that I've taken from the beginning to now. It's kind of brought me to this point in my life where I've decided what I want to do, why I want to do it, the influence that the impact I kind of want to make in our community, and also the Australian and other communities, like the Indigenous community, the White Australian community, and ours. And yeah, I want to be in your newspapers, your TVs, all over your social media, basically, but not in celebrity kind of type of way, in a me kind of running news outlets and stuff like that. And I really want to have my own talk show kind of thing and run my own business media company. That would be pretty cool. If that happens in 12 years, it'd be great to look back on this video and be like, thank you for speaking that into existence, Angeth.